Hello, hello. I'm Sam, and welcome to the Built by Sam mini podcast. In today's episode, we're going to dive into something super practical. So, how lean is stage lean, and how long does it take to get there? It can be really hard to know how long a prep should take if you are brand new. And honestly, who can expect you to know what a reasonable timeline is if you've never done a prep before? Am I right? So, that is what we're going to dive into today. How long will your prep or could your prep be? And the reason we're talking about this today is because it can be really hard to have a call set up with a prospective coach and you're like, woohoo, I'm getting ready. I'm going to be on stage in like 3 or 4 months. It's going to be awesome. Just to get on that call with the coach. And they're like, actually, you are more like a year away from stepping on stage. Like, oof, that hurts, doesn't it? So that's why we're going to dive into this so you don't get blindsided when you go on to consult calls with coaches, so you have a good rough estimate of how long your prep might possibly take. First, I want to dive into what is a reasonable rate of fat loss for a bikini or a fit model prep. And that is going to be roughly 1 pound a week, which is going to be reasonable and sustainable for a bikini or fit model athlete. Now, that doesn't mean it's always going to be 1 pound per week. We're thinking this is an average of 1 pound per week. Some weeks there's going to be more, some weeks it's going to be less, and there are going to be some weeks where you don't see any changes in weight, measurements, or anything. So we want to take those into account. And that's why we land about that 1 pound per average or 1 pound per week average. Or we can kind of think of it as about 0.5% to 1% of your body weight per week. So what this could look like is you're losing a little bit more at the beginning of your prep versus the end of your prep. And the reason we're going for this 1 pound, this nice, steady, sustainable rate of weight loss is we want to make sure we're preserving as much lean muscle mass as possible. We want to make sure we're feeling good during our prep and we're not just grinding and having a miserable time during prep. And we want to make sure that we are doing it in a way that gives us enough energy to really push in our workouts and our cardio still. Because whilst maybe you're like, but I see people lose weight a lot faster all the time. Yes, but are they sustaining that? So we don't want to crash diet when we're doing our preps. And also, a lot of people can lose a lot of muscle mass when we're doing those types of really fast, rapid weight loss over an extended amount of time. Because prep, 16 weeks of grinding versus 25 weeks of a more sustainable prep, 16 weeks is still a long time to grind. So that is why we are looking for a more reasonable and sustainable rate of fat loss during contest prep. Now that we know about 1 pound a week is on average what we're looking at, how lean is stage lean? And stage lean is leaner than fit. Stage lean is leaner than athletic. Stage lean is lean. And a lot of athletes that have not competed, or even athletes that have but have never truly been stage lean, really underestimate how long it can take to get that lean, or how lean they're actually going to have to get to step on stage at a competitive level of body fat. So for example, me, I'm 5'6.5", and I stepped on stage at 122 this last season, and I'm actually aiming to come in about 5 pounds lighter than that for my next season. So I'm aiming for around 118-ish, and I am, again, 5'6.5". Did I say 5'5.5"? Because I am 5'6.5". So I'm going to be aiming for a stage weight of 118 next time I step on stage. For bikini and fit model, you do need to see some muscle definition. We need to see some little teeny bit of tie-in. Bikini, we need to see even more tie-in than fit model. We want some definition of the delt, some definition in the ab. We want to see some separation in the muscles of the legs. Fit model is going to be slightly less for all of those things, but for both of those divisions, that is lean. It is more than just fit, more than just I go to the gym. It is stage lean, which, like I said, is often underestimated how lean that truly is by people that are newer athletes, or athletes, again, that have not actually been stage lean before. To help you picture maybe yourself, if you're not 5'6.5", 5'1", that's probably going to look around 110 on stage. 5'5", around 120. and 5'8" is going to be around the 130 mark. Obviously, these are just estimates, but it gives you a ballpark to kind of see where you might need to be close to be proper conditioning on stage, to be competitive. And I know everyone always asks about, well, what body fat percentage? You'll hear people talk about what percentage of body fat they're at when they're on stage. And first off, it doesn't really matter. Even weight doesn't matter, but that helps give us an idea of where we need to be. It's a good data number, while body fat is not. One, there's no good way to measure it. There's no reliable way to measure it. There's no consistent way to measure it. So we don't need it. It doesn't matter what your body fat is, and we don't need to pay attention to that. But I know people are still going to ask, but like, what is the body fat level? And so I'll just roughly tell you. So for pros, bikini pros, it's going to be around 12 to 14% body fat. Fit models probably going to be closer to 15 to 16. So a little softer, a little less conditioned, but not a crazy amount less conditioned. Also, so when you see bikini competitors saying they're 9% body fat on stage, they're wrong. Again, that's where the inaccuracy of measuring body fat comes into play, because if you were 9% on stage, you're going to be striated to the nines and you're going to be insanely too lean to do well in bikini. Okay, so now that we know how lean roughly we need to be, we know how fast we can sustainably and reasonably lose body fat, let's do an example. Let's use me as an example. So currently I'm 137 pounds and we know I want to be 118 next time I step on stage. That's 19 pounds that I have to lose in order to get the conditioning that I want to get to my next season. At 1 pound per week, that's a 19-week prep. And remember, we talked about how some weeks you're not going to lose weight, some weeks are going to be less. So we always like to add in a little bit of a buffer. So anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks is a good amount. So let's say I want to add in a 3-week buffer just to be safe, because life happens, bodies can be unpredictable. And maybe I want to be able to have some refeeds and diet breaks within my prep. So we'll add a few weeks. That puts us at a 22-week prep. So now I want you to apply it to yourself. I want you to think about your current weight. And then I want you to think about your estimated, roughly speaking, maybe potentially stage weight. And as a quick little refresher, 5'1"-ish, around 110, 5'5"-ish, around 120, 5'8"-ish, around 130-ish. So all you need to do is current weight, estimated stage weight, subtract those, and then you're going to find out how many weeks. So for example, say we have someone that's 145, they want to be 125 on stage. It's going to be 20 weeks. And remember, we want to add a buffer. Well, it's 20 pounds, which translates to 20 weeks. We like easy math. It's just a pound a week. Makes it super easy to figure that math out. Then we want to add in our buffer, 2 to 4 weeks. We'll say this person's never dieted before. We're not sure how they're going to respond. So let's say we'll give them a 4-week buffer. That puts us at a 24-week prep. Now, to figure out when you should start prep, you can take a look at the rough timeline of maybe when you want to do your show, and then just count backward. And for a lot of people, this is a lot longer than they were initially expecting. And that's why it's really good to have a good estimate, or at least a rough estimate, of how long your prep is truly going to take if you're going to be doing it in a smart and sustainable way. Because like I said at the beginning, it can be really disappointing when you're like, it's going to be like 12 weeks and I'll be on stage. And you hear like, actually, it's going to be like 9 months. And you're like, wow, that's a lot different than what I was expecting. It can be really disappointing. So going and knowing roughly what it's going to be can be really empowering, because you know exactly what to expect, or at least you know what to roughly expect. Because we never want prep to feel rushed. People regret starting prep too late. No one ever regrets starting prep too early. If you start early and there is a show and you can't push it forward, you can always reverse diet into your show and you're going to be feeling awesome going into that show. All right, so that is it for today. Thank you for joining me in the Built by Sam mini podcast. If you have any comments, notes on the show, anything you want to hear about or me talk about in future episodes, please drop it in the comments or send me an email at hello@builtbysamlee.com, and I will talk to you in the next episode.